Rancher accused of shooting and killing a migrant on his property is now out on bail. George Allen Kelly put his ranch up for collateral in order to post a $1 million surety bond after Santa Cruz County officials added additional counts of aggravated assault. Witnesses told prosecutors Kelly shot an unarmed man in the back as that man was fleeing from Kelly's property, in addition to shooting at others, quote, without warning or provocation. NewsNation border correspondent Allie Bradley joins us from outside the courthouse in Nogales, Arizona, with the latest details. Good morning, Allie.
Yeah, hi, good morning, Mitch. So Nogales sits right in the Tucson sector, which DHS sources confirmed to me is leading the nation in gotaways. Those are people who have successfully evaded law enforcement. And George Allen Kelly's ranch in neighboring Keno Springs sits right on what Border Patrol agents are telling me is a major narcotics route. It's an area notorious for extremely aggressive and violent smugglers, going back decades.
That has been a tough area to work for many, many years. The cartel operating in that area has had a propensity for violence.
Former Border Patrol Chief Rodney Scott says he was a supervisor in Nogales and experienced the dangers firsthand.
A good friend of mine was actually pinned down by automatic weapons fire for over 20 minutes while the cartel came, recovered the narcotics they were trying to smuggle in.
During George Allen Kelly's preliminary hearing earlier this week, Kelly's attorney, Brenna Larkin, said her client was being targeted by smugglers who were intimidating witnesses and skewing the investigation, saying, quote, testimony is something that is bought and sold by drug traffickers, the same way that drugs and people are bought and sold. In this case, the benefit they're getting is security for their smuggling route through Mr. Kelly's property. And they're sending a message to anybody else defending his or her own property that if you defend your property against us, you will be arrested and there will be witnesses who come to stand against you. Multiple Border Patrol sources I spoke with tell me that Kelly did have a reputation among the smugglers as someone who fires his rifle off when undocumented individuals are on his property. And while the victim in this case, 48-year-old Gabriel Quen Butamea, was found unarmed, he did have a radio and was wearing tactical boots. Former Chief Scott says Quen Butamea also had multiple prior deportations.
Everything that I am seeing, my professional experience would tell me that that guy was either a scout or an actual guide for a group. With the radio, much more likely he was probably scouting out in advance, or the front man, if you will. But that type of activity and behavior doesn't take place out there unless it's part of the cartel.
Larkin has maintained that the people on the Kelly's ranch January 30th were involved in human smuggling. Okay, so what's next when it comes to this case? Well, George Allen Kelly will be back here in front of a judge in Nogales for an evidentiary hearing. This is a continuation of that preliminary hearing we were at on Wednesday, Mitch. What we can expect today is we're hearing from those witnesses, those two witnesses that have come forward that have added those aggravated assault charges. And then also we should be hearing from detectives as well today.
All right, and we thank Allie for that report. I do want to bring in Sheriff Mark Dannels now of Cochise County, Arizona. Sheriff Dannels, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Natasha.
And Sheriff, these ranchers telling NewsNation they're essentially prisoners on their own property, surrounded by cartel smugglers under constant surveillance, even though they are on the U.S. side of the border. Why is this an issue that local law enforcement is not able to handle on its own?
Well, let me just say this. What rancher John Ladd's telling you, and many other ranchers, I had a call just this morning from a rancher talking about some of the challenges and the concern and frustration they have when it comes to living on the border. You know, I keep saying this, these ranchers are American ranchers, but they feel neglected. And when Washington, D.C., President Biden, this administration, Secretary Mayorkas have intellectually abandoned and avoided the southwest border under border security, this is why they feel like they do. As their sheriff, I'm doing everything I can to protect them, but I need our federal government back to partner with us.
Do you feel that your department and the deputies and the officers on your force are able to rise to the challenge and meet the demand to protect all of these ranchers who say essentially they feel abandoned?
I'm doing everything I can as their elected sheriff to protect their quality of life, their freedoms and their liberties. But I'm only one component of government. There's 3 layers of government. We need all 3 layers working collectively to do that. And I respect what the ranchers are going through. Natasha, when you look at 2022 stats, we arrested over 1,500. We arrested 1,578 people for border crimes in my county, which accounted to 44% of the jail population. We're doing everything we can. Now that's at the local level. If I had the federal government and I had the President of the United States coming out and trying to secure the border, I'm not talking about immigration, I'm talking about secure the border to stop the fentanyl, to stop the cartels, which we know is a known criminal commodity that works off fear, violence, and greed. If we can address them and make them a priority, we could make a difference for these ranchers. Right now, we're not doing that when it comes to Washington, D.C.
And we heard in Allie's piece just now, that rancher who lives in Cochise County, your county, says that stand your ground laws don't even matter anymore, that they feel the laws on the books are not protecting them. Is this a perspective that you do hear a lot along the border these days?
We do, because they know the cartels are in their backyard. I mean, where rancher John Ladd lives, it goes right to the international border, and the cartels are operating right there. I mean, think about that. This is a ruthless. We see what goes on. We see the violence on our side of the border when it comes to the smuggling going on, the attacks toward law enforcement, which is more common than not. I mean, I understand the fear and the frustration these ranchers and rancher John Ladd is doing, but I, as their sheriff, I'm doing everything I can to protect that quality of life, to protect them and safeguard them. And they know I'll enforce the rule of law, but we're going to do it by the facts, absent opinion, sensation, and political whims.